It is time for StreetWise with former chief of the New York City Sheriff's Department, former chief of the Seagate Police Department, retired New York City detective, Time Warner Public Access Media Award, Joe Franklin Super Excellence in Broadcasting Memory Lane Award, New York Veteran Police Association StreetWise Productions, host of StreetWise, Mr. Lou Telano.
Good evening and welcome back to StreetWise. My guest this evening is former South Carolina Congressman and U.S. Senator, former president of the Heritage Foundation, which is pretty much a conservative think tank, and right now he is the leader of the Conservative Partnership Institute. That's also a conservative lobbying organization, which we could use right now, what's going on in the country. He's a great author. I didn't know that my guest wrote so many books. I want to touch on him before, if you see him, you know who he is. I just want to touch on his books because it'll tie in our conversation. I think his latest book is Saving America from Socialism. We desperately need that. Falling in love with America again. It's like making America great again, saving freedom. Wow, this all ties in. And he did this before, you know, we all knew what was going on in this craziness, what's going on in this country. His other book is conservative. He co-authored that with the Rachel Bovard. That's, anyway, Now or Never is another book. I just hope I didn't miss the book. Anyway, it's my pleasure to introduce to StreetWise Senator Jim DeMint. Senator Jim DeMint, it's a pleasure to have you as my guest.
Lou, it's a real honor to be on your show, and I appreciate what you do every day to keep your listeners more informed. That's a big challenge today because over 90% of the media is really not telling the truth about hardly anything.
You know, you're a great help. Obviously, you're an asset to that. You know, when you were writing these books, whoever thought that we'd be in this position that we're in now? Did you have a look at the tea leaves or something? It's like you predicted.
Well,
you know,
Lou, it's a good question. 10 years ago, I wrote a book called Saving Freedom. It actually made the bestseller list, but it was more about socialism, but it was a warning. It was helping people see warning signs. But Saving America from Socialism is really an update with everything that's happened since Obama and during Obama. It's no longer a warning. The left and the Democrats have come out of the closet. They are freely talking about socialism and central planning, getting rid of our republic idea and trying to create a national government. So what I'm trying to do is just help people recognize what socialism is and that it's always failed. But also, if we don't know what makes America special, we're going to lose it. And that's about where we are right now, Lou. Americans need to know why we're different from any other nation.
You know, you just touched on it. They're coming out of the closet. They've never done that before. It's amazing.
Right.
They're proud. They're proud to come out and say we are, I guess you could say, radical left, you know, the extreme socialism. And you have like a gal like Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman, I'm sorry to say, with her new Green Deal, it pretty much promotes Joseph Stalin. We could keep going. So, how do we educate the country? Because I don't think if it were not for books and people like you, people wouldn't have a clue exactly what, especially the younger people, what socialism is really about.
Well, Lou, that's the question we have to figure out how to answer because not too many people read books anymore, and a lot of young people are not listening to your show today. We've got to do a lot through social media to help young people see what socialism feels like. And if they want to know, Lou, what the government has done at particularly the state and the local level to deal with coronavirus should give everyone a chance to see what happens when the government decides which businesses can open and which ones can't, where we can go and who we can meet with, whether you can go to church. This is all authority that they've taken for our own good, but frankly, Lou, the facts don't bear out what they're doing. It's just that we're destroying our nation over something that is probably not much worse than the flu if you're under 65.
Correct. So do you think like many of us do, that this is a great opportunity for the extreme left. It's COVID-19. They're using this to get their agenda off the ground because it's working.
It's no question about it. They're using this whole push for mail-in ballots to say, okay, people can't go to the voting place. But I've worked voting for a long time, or at least I've done it many times years ago before I was a congressman. But people can drive up in their cars. We took ballots to them. And voting lists have 10, 20% or more people who've moved, they've died.
Yes.
And if you just mail out to people on that list, Lou, a lot of ballots are going to go out and be filled out for somebody that's not the name on the list. And that's why the Democrats want to do it. But they're using this COVID thing as a ruse to take control of our lives.
And, if you don't mind, I'm going to just steal 30 seconds of your time because you're the guest. Is that, I was Rudy Giuliani's law enforcement liaison when he was running for mayor of the city of New York. So we were doing some background when he lost to David Dinkins the first time when he ran for mayor of the city of New York. And this is what we discovered, me and two other retired detectives. This is what we discovered. Dead people were voting twice for David Dinkins. We had the documentation. We had photos of the gravestone. We went down to the Board of Health. We had copies of certificates of death certificates. We had copies of the election where they signed in. Dead people were actually voting twice, and that's New York City. It's not the country. That's my concern now. If they can do that in New York City, which obviously is a large state, and these, by the way, we're talking about the same Democratic machine, the same Democratic organization. They have a lot of experience in doing that, Senator DeMint.
They do, and the left and the media is trying to say that what you just said is not true, but we've seen it all over the country, not only with folks who are passed away voting. They want illegals to vote, they want felons to vote, they want people who are 16 to vote, and they want this harvest balloting where they can just take a whole bag full of ballots to an apartment complex and just get everyone to sign them and fill them out the way they want to. We've got a lot of uphill challenges in America to save our country, and we just have to get people engaged. We can't have young people voting for socialism because they think it sounds good.
Yeah.
Lou, socialism has resulted in millions of deaths around the world. It never works out for the little guy.
Correct. And the history shows that. So how can we offset that? The group of people that you just touched on, that's the only votes that the Democrats are going to get. They're not going to get middle America. They're not going to get the blue collar. So they're working extremely hard on illegals and everything else that they can falsify. Senator Jim DeMint, how do we offset that? Because that's the fraud is going to be out there. So how can we offset that? The fraud that they're going to probably, with the Fugazis that they're going to do, which I mentioned, what happened in New York City.
Well, Lou, the only thing we can do with this short of notice,
you're right,
is we've got to get people to vote. I mean, after every election, you find out that whole groups of people who would vote for conservatives don't vote. You've got 30, 40% of evangelical Christians sometimes don't vote. And you've got people who just say politics is nasty, I don't want to be involved with it, or I don't like Donald Trump. This is not a time to get all tied up in personalities. I mean, the policies on the left now are going to destroy our country, and they will destroy it in order to rebuild it in their own image. We've got to get out and vote. We've got to get everyone we know to vote. And what we have to do, Lou, as citizens, is be willing to stand up against all this cancel culture, this political correctness, and just tell the truth right now. Because the Biden-Harris ticket is the most radical ticket we've ever seen.
Wow, amazing.
But all the Democrats now are supporting that, regardless of how they campaign at home.
Exactly.
You've got virtually every one of them supporting really crazy ideas.
Actually, it's the Harris-Biden ticket.
Well, I think if you think about it, everyone is assuming that will be the situation very quickly before or after the election.
It seems
So
to be, yeah.
Biden is just a puppet being carried along by a very powerful left. Most of the players we don't even know.
Right, which actually was carried by Obama as well.
Right.
He just followed Obama. So no, so we have so how the heck, again, I hate to put you on the spot, but as a former congressman and a great congressman and the United States senator, your thoughts on the election and how can we offset this? I mean, it's not an easy question because we talked about the fraud. And he said, I know we got to get people out there. We got to get them educated on what's going on. How can we, I'm sure you've never seen it, at least I haven't, and I'm older than you. How do we have a presidential election? And I don't think there may be one debate, if any. How is that possible?
Well, Lou, I believe Americans are smarter than the pollsters give them credit for. I don't think Biden can hide from a debate. I don't think their ideas are going to sell. But the media is so dishonest now. We've got to do everything we can in person. Right. If Trump could travel and do his rallies, it would change things.
Correct.
Because there's nobody in the country who can get tens of thousands of people to come to stadiums like he can. But now they're saying he can't do it because of coronavirus.
Yes.
So they've got a lot of us boxed in with this artificial threat, which, Lou, I mean, it's just not true that we can't go out and all of this social distancing and masks. While a number of people need to be very careful because we see people with pre-existing serious conditions are very threatened by this.
Correct.
But it's very rare that a younger, healthy person even gets very sick. So we need to get this country back to work, and hopefully what you're going to see from Donald Trump, and I've worked on his economic task force, is a real positive message about everything that makes this country work, to make Americans proud, to fly their flag, to talk about the things, again, that makes us so special as a nation. The left and the Democrats are trying to say America is racist, that you've got white supremacy everywhere, that we've been an evil nation from the beginning. 1619 is the date they're giving it. And so we're going to see a real contrast with a positive campaign about what makes America great compared to the left about all of the maladies that are in America today. And I hope Americans will see this, the real big contrast between the two the presidential candidates.
Well, they should see it now. Look what's going on in the country. I mean, you mentioned before, and that was a great word you used, that actually they're willing to destroy this country to rebuild it in their narrative or their image or whatever. And I tell you, it's so mind-boggling because they're willing to have people die in the streets. They're willing to burn down businesses and commit crimes just so they could get whatever they want to get, which we know, power and control. And they're willing to do that. I think the average American, from where I sit, they see it. They see it. But even saying that, if under normal conditions, like Trump did the first time, he should win by a landslide under normal conditions. But I don't think anything is normal now.
Well, he should win by a landslide. And I don't know where all these people are who are going to vote for Biden-Harris, because I travel a lot.
Yes.
I go all over the country. Most Americans get it.
Right.
But the media every night is telling them something that's not true. So we, as conservatives and as patriotic Americans, have got to work really hard the next few months just to get good people to go vote.
Now, you're working very hard now as the leader of CPI, which is the Conservative Partnership Institute. What are you doing there? I know you're doing a lot, but for the audience, what exactly are you doing there as head of the CPI?
Well, I saw when I was in the Senate, especially after I started Senate Conservatives Fund and helped get a lot of new people elected, that Washington tends to push everyone towards the swamp and the establishment. And there's really no support for conservatives once they get there. So we started the Conservative Partnership Institute to support congressmen, senators, and their staff, help them get good staff.
Right.
Now we're helping the administration get better staff. We train staff to help them understand how the place works. We've got a building a couple of blocks from the Capitol where congressmen and senators can get together and develop strategies and camaraderie. So our whole deal at conservativepartnership.org is to support the good guys and the good girls. And it's been a tremendous success over our first 3 years.
I have to ask you this, this seems to be your whole life, and it seems like you had a mission or a goal from day one when you got into Congress, and you author such great books, folks, that I really have to, again, I really have to touch on it, because this is some of his books, like that former Senator Jim DeMint had mentioned, like 10 years ago, Saving America from Socialism. We have to be saved from socialism, like Senator Jim DeMint said a moment ago. Look what's happening in all these different countries that had socialism and falling in love with America again. This is not my America. And when Trump came out with Make America Great Again, I don't know where he got that from, because it just seems so natural. Saving freedom. You can't go out, you can't go to the movie, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't even go to church. Talk about our freedom. Your books seem to tie right in with everything that's going on today. Conservative alone, and now or never. You know something, folks? It's now or never. If we don't get Trump re-elected, it is now or never. And never is going to be really the end. The great American awakening, and that's why we have people like former Senator Jim DeMint. That's helping me. You're a great asset on the show, because I find, Jim, there are so many people out there. It's starting to loosen up now. They wouldn't even wear a MAGA hat. Now you see them doing it. You know, and these are the ones that are going to come out. You know, and really, this landslide for Donald Trump. Senator DeMint. Yeah. You know, and I hope you know. So, what can the average person do that's watching the show, listening to the show? Because this show is going to be on Twitter. It's going to be all over the place. Some advice to us people. I want to do exactly what your books, the title of your books are. What advice can? Because some people have given up. I hate to say this. Some people are just frightened and say and I hate to say it, that it's over and we lost. I doubt it.
No, we haven't lost yet, and a big part of the book is just helping people understand that it's up to us,
right?
The average person. We can't keep looking to Washington and say they should do this or that. America is about the little guy. We were built from the ground up, and we need to be able to defend the principles that make this country great. And that's why I hope some of your listeners will read Saving America from Socialism, because it's a simple book to read. And it just helps us see the big contrast between socialist thinking and freedom-loving people. And we need to we need to know what we're talking about. We need to be willing to stand up for what we believe, and we need to go vote. And Lou, I'm convinced Americans still long for freedom, and they're going to do the right thing. And we're going to see our country get rebuilt from this COVID virus. So I just encourage your listeners, stay informed. Read a good book, and then go out and vote.
You know what I can't understand? How are we permitting, how are we allowing, they're not demonstrations, folks, and they're not protests. They are outright riots and anarchy. Senator Jim DeMint, how are we permitting this to happen? Because we actually are. We're permitting all this destruction, to use your word, of this country right in our face. And it seems to, I hate to say this, but there seems like the country is starting to accept this as the norm, and that's what my concern.
Well, Lou, it's not happening in most of America, and the media makes us think that. But you don't see the riots in South Carolina. You don't see it in a lot of states that have good conservative Republican governors and mayors. This is happening primarily in areas that have been controlled by Democrats for decades. And what we're seeing is just a lack of law and order. We're seeing a lack of the concept of citizenship and responsibility. The Democrats are telling people they've been discriminated against, that America's a racist country, and that you have every right to destroy these businesses that people have spent years building. So this is not America, and no one should believe it is, but it's certainly a problem in America in the areas where Democrats control. We can't allow that to happen to our country. That's what this election is about. If you want our country to be like Seattle and New York, then go out and vote for Biden. But we have a real alternative to that, and we saw what Donald Trump was doing before the coronavirus, and we've got a lot of opportunities ahead of us, and I think the best is yet to come if we just as citizens take control of our country.
You know, if you were in the Senate today, Senator Jim DeMint, because I would love to see Donald Trump step in like he did in one of the states recently and put the feds in, because I think we can, because this is domestic terrorism. So would you approve the authority of federal law enforcement to go in these democratic cities and areas that are destroying our country? As you, as a U.S. Senator, which you were, would you go along with that? Because I would love to see that. I know it puts him in an awkward position, but I think that's what has to happen, because it's getting out of hand. I think he has to come in and take charge.
Well, Lou, it's a last resort, and it's a problem when he's not supported by governors and mayors, when we send in federal agents who don't have the support of local and state authorities.
Right.
So he is in a very awkward position.
Yeah.
But I think in many cases this is domestic terrorism, and if he cannot get cooperation from the governors, he is going to have to do more to try to protect the people. That's his job.
Yes.
But again, it's a last resort in a republic where states should have more control. But what this should show us is a lot of states are doing the right thing. They're not riots. There's law and order.
Right.
The states controlled by the left, the Democrats, are in big trouble because of the way they view the world.
You know, it's exactly, folks, it's what we see what's going on with these, again, these are outright riots. All the leadership are all Democrats, and if this is what we're going to be stuck with, we are in terrible, bad shape, and we got to get the people out there. We all appreciate what you're doing, what you continue to do. But what I wanted to ask you before is that, why did you choose this route of as being a staunch conservative from day one, Senator Jim DeMint?
Well, Lou, I never ran for office until I was 47 years old. I've been in business my whole life. And so the principles of conservatism are what I saw work in real life. So it's not a political philosophy for me. It's just common sense.
Very good.
To give people freedom, capitalism, and free enterprise, traditional Judeo-Christian values.
Yes.
I mean, these are the things that work and make people successful. And when we teach people the opposite, and we shouldn't be surprised that we've got a lot of people who aren't successful. And so I'm encouraged. I hope you'll continue to encourage folks. I need to jump off here in just a moment, but I'm very grateful for what you do every day, and for giving me some time to talk about freedom in America today.
Thank you, folks. My guest is former U.S. Senator, and he's the head of this great group, CPI, Conservative Partnership Institute, and he's walking distance from the White House, like you said. And don't forget, Saving America from Socialism, folks. Senator Jim DeMint, it's a pleasure. All right? And we got to bring back the Judeo-Christian values like you touched on a moment ago.
Yeah. Thanks, Lou. Great to be with you.
God bless.
All righty.
Thank you. I'll tell you, it's Lou Telano. I'm going to take a break now, folks. So just hang in there, and I will be back in, a couple of seconds, I guess, maybe a minute. My promo should be coming on. I'm going to take a little break, a little commercial.